Polemic theology. What is it? And do we as believers need to know and understand what it is today? Well, we're going to take a look at that in this book called Against the Gods by John Currid in this edition of Book Review. So stay tuned. Have you ever been online and you've gone through and you've perused some posts and on maybe a science page or a archaeological page, and something comes up about the Bible, and then you see a response in there about somebody claiming that the stories that are in the Bible are baloney. They stole stories from ancient Near Eastern empires, and so they just changed the names and changed things around to make it sound like they're the only one. Have you ever come across that? I have. Within the last year or so, I go to some secular pages and read science and things. I love that kind of thing. I love history and archaeology and that kind of thing. And as I'm going, I would see these responses, and I'm like, what? Scratching my head, like, what? I don't understand that. What is this? So the more research I did and listening about what it is something that's called polemic theology. And I thought it was really fascinating. And that's why this book I do recommend, Against the Gods by John Currid. It's an introductory book into this whole genre, and it's something that anybody can read. It's easy to understand, and it is just an introductory book. There are other books by other authors that go deeper. There's New Testament polemic theology and Old Testament polemic theology. And what he does, he basically goes through Genesis, goes through a few stories like Moses and parting of the Red Sea, Moses with his rod and staff, because in ancient Egypt, their staffs, their rods, meant a lot to them. They held power from their gods, and so the pharaohs and their priests always had a rod with them. So imagine Moses showing up with a shepherd's rod, and you know that shepherds were the lowest of low in those times. The Egyptians just hated shepherds, even though they needed them to raise their sheep for food. But imagine Moses coming to Pharaoh with a stick that he just basically found out in the desert versus their very ornate golden plated staffs. You know, it's just amazing. Well, anyway, it also goes through Joseph, and it's just very, very interesting. It's a good book. It's a good read. It's easy to understand. The flight of Moses, the flood account. People just seem to believe that the writers of Genesis stole all that from ancient Near Eastern empires and wrote it down and just changed the names and that kind of thing. The back of the book reads like this. It says, did the Old Testament writers borrow ideas from their pagan neighbors? And if they did, was it done uncritically? A respected Old Testament scholar and archaeologist engages with these controversial questions by carefully comparing the biblical text to other ancient Near Eastern documents. Well-researched and thoughtfully nuanced, Currid aims to outline the precise relationship between the biblical worldview and that of Israel's neighbors. So this is something that, like I said, I highly recommend. If you are a budding apologist, this is something that you definitely need in your pocket, because this will help you defend and be an apologist and defend the faith. Okay, if you're just a regular churchgoer Christian, you know, this is really interesting. It might pique your interest to read and see what it's all about, because who knows, you may come across somebody at the supermarket and online or whatever that's going to say this kind of stuff. And you know, it's always good to have a defense for the faith, you know that. So I do highly recommend it again. It's an easy book. It's not very big at all, and it's great. You can pick it up from CBD, Christian Book Distributors, and that's it. This is the book review for Against the Gods. Now, if you like this book review, and I would just recommend that you would like the channel, that you would subscribe to the channel, because we're going to have other book reviews in the future and other things going on as well. So thank you for watching and listening, and buy the book. All right, thank you so much. God bless.